The morning sunlight streamed softly through the tall arched windows of Elizabeth Wilson's new home at Oakwood Heights. The light scattered across the marble floors, glinting off the polished brass fixtures and illuminating the faint steam rising from her cup of coffee. She sat at the wide kitchen island, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. Yet even in this unfinished state, the house radiated quiet luxury. Her laptop screen reflected in her eyes rows of investment charts, quarterly reports, and market projections scrolling endlessly. Elizabeth closed the lid with a sigh, pushing a stray lock of chestnut hair behind her ear. Outside, the sprawling garden shimmered with early morning dew. The rose bushes, her favorite white ones, were still in the process of blooming. Each bud glistened as though holding secrets of its own. The house itself stood proud, cream-colored walls framed by deep green shutters, with red brick accents and a mahogany front door that gleamed under the sun. The three-story mansion, built on a gentle slope overlooking a private lake, was one of the most talked-about properties in Boston's upper suburbs, the kind of house people drove past just to imagine what kind of life unfolded inside. Elizabeth and her husband, Michael Wilson, had chosen it carefully. They'd spent months searching for something that reflected success, the success they'd built together, or so she thought. "Darling," Elizabeth said softly into her phone, swirling the coffee cup in her hand as she gazed out at the rose garden. "I think I can come home early today. How about dinner at our new home? I've arranged for the chef to prepare something special." Michael's response came a beat too late. Sorry, but I can't today. An important meeting came up." His voice sounded distant, mechanical, the kind of tone reserved for business calls. Elizabeth's lips curved into a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, I understand." The call ended with a soft click, leaving behind an echo that filled the quiet room. Lately, his absences had multiplied: late meetings, sudden trips, vague explanations. She wanted to believe him. She always had. But somewhere deep down, doubt had begun to take root. She turned back to her laptop and sent a quick email to her mother, Patricia, confirming their Sunday brunch at Stephanie's on Newberry Street, their long-standing ritual since her father's passing. Patricia, lately, had become even more social, especially around Amanda, Elizabeth's younger sister. Amanda, who never seemed to work yet somehow always appeared in new designer clothes. That afternoon, after meeting with a high-profile client at her firm, Elizabeth checked her phone and noticed a new message from Amanda. "Sis, I'm so excited about your housewarming party. I heard there's going to be a surprise. Everyone will be shocked." "A surprise?" Elizabeth frowned, her manicured fingers hovering over the screen. Amanda had been oddly cheerful these days, radiating the smug confidence of someone holding a secret. Her recent lifestyle, Versace, Dior, Tiffany, didn't add up, not for someone unemployed. At brunch the next day, Patricia arrived in a Chanel tweed suit and pearls, her perfume leaving an expensive trail over cappuccinos and smoked salmon toast. Her mother broached the same question she always did. "Beth, don't you think it's time you considered having children?" she asked casually, her tone sweet but sharp. "Remaining childless isn't natural." Elizabeth froze, her knife suspended midair. Patricia knew. She knew about the failed IVF treatments, the endless doctor visits, the tears that came late at night when Michael stopped pretending to care. "Mother," she said softly, "let's not discuss this in public." Patricia sighed dramatically, stirring her latte. "I'm only saying it because I care." But Elizabeth saw it then, the same glint she often caught in Amanda's eyes, pity, masked as concern. That night, unable to sleep, she wandered into Michael's study to tidy up. The air smelled faintly of cedarwood and his cologne. She was rearranging files when her hand brushed against a small object at the back of a drawer. A phone, not his usual one. Her pulse quickened. She unlocked it easily. Michael had never been cautious with her, but what she saw made her chest tighten. "The hotel yesterday was lovely. Let's wrap everything up soon." The message was from Amanda. The next morning, Elizabeth walked into a discreet office near Copley Square. The nameplate read, Private Investigator International. She placed a thick envelope of cash on the desk. "I need everything," she said simply. "Dates, photos, locations, financial records, and I need it done before my housewarming party." 2 weeks remained. The mansion at Oakwood Heights would host over 100 guests, investors, board members, socialites, and family. Her father-in-law, Richard Wilson, founder of Wilson Enterprises, would be there too. He was a man of stern morals and an unyielding sense of pride. Michael had been glowing lately, boasting of promotions, new deals, and company restructuring. But behind every smile, Elizabeth now saw cracks. That evening, she walked through the rose garden, their petals catching the fading sunlight. Everything, every breath, every decision, had begun aligning toward one inevitable moment. Justice. 2 weeks later, the mansion stood transformed. The gentle June sunlight bathed the white pergolas in gold. Rows of white linen tables stretched across the emerald lawn, while elegant string lights hung from tree to tree like a constellation come to life. "Mrs. Wilson, we'll set the champagne tower here," said the event planner, adjusting her headset. 300 crystal glasses, 25 staff members, and Chef Jean-Pierre will arrive at 5. Elizabeth nodded approvingly. "Perfect. Let's make sure everything runs smoothly." In her mind, the timing of the evening played out like a carefully written score. At precisely 7, when the crowd's attention was at its peak, she would hand her father-in-law the USB drive. Truth would spill into the open like shattered glass. At 4, she retreated to her study. From a locked drawer, she retrieved the black USB drive, labeled in neat cursive, "Truth." Inside it, months of investigation, financial records, falsified contracts, photographs of secret hotel meetings, voice recordings, transaction logs linking company funds to luxury purchases. At 5, the staff began arriving. Chefs, florists, servers. The air smelled faintly of white lilies and polished silver. By 6, she stood before her mirror in an ivory Carolina Herrera dress, her late father's diamond necklace glimmering at her collarbone. Her reflection looked composed, but her pulse thudded like a drumbeat of war. "Tonight," she whispered to herself, "everything ends." Guests began to fill the garden. Classical music floated through the air as champagne flowed freely. Patricia arrived first, radiant in Chanel, smiling too widely. Amanda followed, her Versace gown shimmering under the chandeliers, her stomach slightly rounded. "Beth, this is divine," Patricia exclaimed. "You've truly outdone yourself." Elizabeth smiled faintly. "I'm glad you think so." The music softened as Michael arrived, his father by his side. Richard Wilson looked every inch the Titan, dignified, commanding. Michael, in his tailored Armani suit, looked uneasy. The butler raised his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, the toast will begin shortly." The glasses filled. The sun slipped beneath the horizon. Then Patricia raised her own glass, her smile sharp as glass. "Everyone," she began, "I have an announcement. My daughter Amanda is getting married to Michael." A gasp swept through the garden like a gust of wind. The roses seemed to tremble. Michael turned to Elizabeth, lips curling into a cruel smile. "We don't need an infertile wife anymore. This house is ours." Amanda's manicured hand rested possessively on her stomach. "You've packed your bags, right, sis?" Elizabeth's face didn't flinch. She simply placed her glass down, the soft clink echoing in the stunned silence. "Yes, I have," she said calmly. "But first." She reached for the black USB drive, holding it between her fingers. "Father," she said, turning to Richard Wilson, "there's something you should see." The faintest sound of a laptop booting filled the air. A screen flickered to life, casting pale blue light over the crowd. Then, silence. Until Richard's voice broke it like thunder. What is this?" His eyes widened as the truth began to play before everyone. Transactions, hotel footage, records of betrayal. The night, once filled with laughter and champagne, now trembled with the sound of destruction. And Elizabeth, standing tall beneath the moonlight, finally felt something she hadn't in years. Freedom. The champagne glasses trembled slightly as guests exchanged uneasy glances. A heavy silence filled the luxurious ballroom, broken only by the soft hum of the chandelier above. Richard Wilson, the patriarch of the Wilson family and founder of Wilson Enterprises, sat in his grand leather chair at the head of the room. His once proud expression was now replaced by something grave, a quiet, growing dread. Slowly, he opened his sleek silver laptop and inserted the USB drive that his daughter, Elizabeth, had handed him moments before. Richard's voice faltered as the screen flickered to life. The monitor illuminated rows of confidential documents, internal files from Wilson Enterprises. Each document revealed a trail of deceit so intricate it seemed almost theatrical. The room went still as the truth unraveled before their eyes. There, in cold, undeniable evidence, were records of embezzlement, falsified transactions, and the personal luxuries bought with stolen company funds. Photographs appeared, Michael and Amanda smiling in front of luxury condominiums, expensive cars gleaming in their driveways, glittering jewelry boxes stacked high in hidden safes. Every date, every transaction, every account transfer, all meticulously recorded. Richard's hand trembled as he gripped the edge of the table. He whispered again, unable to finish the sentence. Elizabeth, standing beside him in a black silk gown, spoke with calm authority. Father, these are the results of a 6-month independent investigation. The total amount of fraudulent transfers amounts to roughly $5 million, and according to Private Investigator International, this might only be the beginning. Michael's complexion drained of color. Beads of sweat formed along his hairline. Father, please, this is a misunderstanding. All the transactions were legitimate. But his voice broke midway through, betraying his fear. Silence followed. Then, Richard's voice, deep, commanding, furious, thundered through the room. You've betrayed everything my father built. The trust, the integrity, the name of Wilson Enterprises. You've destroyed the legacy of 3 generations for greed. The chandelier above trembled as though even it felt the force of his anger. As Amanda reached forward, trying to interject, the presentation shifted again. A new video began to play, surveillance footage. The guests gasped as they watched Amanda and Michael enter and exit the Four Seasons Hotel at night, often during company board meetings. There were more photos, Patricia, their mother, meeting Amanda for lunch at a high-end restaurant, handing her an envelope, smiling as though she were proud. Shopping bags from Chanel and Cartier appeared in every frame. This is wrong, Patricia cried, her voice cracking with panic. These are lies, edited footage. But it was too late. The timestamps, the voice recordings, the digitally verified emails, everything was authenticated. The truth was irrefutable. Michael Wilson, Richard said, his voice now low and icy. You are dismissed from all positions at Wilson Enterprises effective immediately. Your shares are to be confiscated. All current projects under your supervision are suspended until further notice. Michael's jaw tightened, his arrogance returning in flashes of defiance. Try it, Father. You can't touch me. This house, this mansion, is in my name. Elizabeth tilted her head, a calm, knowing smile forming on her lips. Oh, you mean this property? She held up a leather binder embossed in gold. The property deed shimmered faintly in the light. Actually, this house is in my name. You signed it over yourself. A murmur spread through the room. Guests leaned in, whispering. Michael's eyes widened. Impossible. Elizabeth's tone sharpened. Don't you remember, Michael? Last month, you insisted on transferring the property as a sign of trust. You told me you wanted to make amends to your beloved wife. All documents were legally processed, witnessed, notarized, and filed. At that moment, a man in a tailored Brooks Brothers suit stood from the corner of the room. That's correct, said Attorney James Albright. The transfer was executed in full compliance with Massachusetts state law. There was no forgery, no coercion, only Mr. Wilson's signature. Amanda let out a sharp cry. Her voice trembled as tears streaked down her cheeks, smudging her mascara. Elizabeth, please, think about the baby. Elizabeth turned toward her slowly, her expression unreadable. The baby? She repeated softly. Then her gaze hardened. You mean the pregnancy you fabricated to gain father's sympathy? The air froze. Elizabeth's voice remained calm but deadly precise. I have evidence of your falsified medical reports. The hospital confirmed the documents were altered. And, Michael, she took another envelope from her folder. You already have a child, a 10-year-old boy living quietly in the Boston suburbs. The room erupted in gasps. Patricia staggered backward, clutching her pearls. Elizabeth, please, she sobbed. We're family. Why are you doing this? Elizabeth's eyes glistened, but her tone remained steel cold. Family? You abandoned me when I needed you most. You supported Michael's affair, hid the embezzlement, and called it family loyalty. I stopped believing in that word the moment you turned your back on me. Richard rose from his seat. His shadow stretched across the marble floor, tall and commanding. This gathering is over, he declared. Legal proceedings will begin tomorrow morning. Patricia, Amanda, Michael, your accounts will be frozen by noon. Cooperate, or face full prosecution. Michael's shoulders slumped. His arrogance melted into despair. All right, he muttered. Defeated. I'll do what you ask. Security guards stepped closer, ensuring there would be no escape. As the guests quietly dispersed, Elizabeth walked toward the glass doors that opened to the garden. The night air was cool. White roses bloomed under the silver moonlight, their petals glistening like frost. Richard approached her from behind, his voice softer now. Elizabeth, you've done what I never had the courage to do. You've protected this family's honor. Starting next week, I want you to take over as vice president of Wilson Enterprises. Elizabeth smiled faintly, her expression serene. Thank you, Father. But before that, there are matters I need to settle, personally. Richard nodded, understanding without words. Then do what you must. The legal team will handle the rest. As the last of the guests left, Elizabeth stood in silence, the roses swaying gently in the night breeze. The moonlight caught the diamond necklace around her neck, the one her father had given her years ago. Everything had led to this moment, every betrayal, every heartbreak, every lonely night. She took a slow sip of champagne, her reflection glimmering in the crystal glass. The war wasn't over, not yet, but she was ready. Because for the first time in years, Elizabeth Wilson was free. And this time, she would write her own story.